Republican Daniel Wong's appointment as interim county judge. We'll discuss this and more of today's top headlines. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm guest host Raheel Ramzanali. The FIFA World Cup knockout stage is officially underway with dramatic finishes, packed stadiums, and a huge Brazil-Japan matchup right here in Houston. Michael Adkison will join us live from Houston Stadium with the latest.
Plus, we all know the World Cup has Houston buzzing. We'll explore the science of soccer with the Houston Museum of Natural Science, Sugar Land.
And as always, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The U.S. Supreme Court says Lisa Cook can keep her job as a member of the Federal Reserve's governing board, at least for now. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the decision is a setback for President Trump.
In a 5-4 ruling, the High Court said the president failed to give Lisa Cook due process when he tried to fire her from the Fed board. The attempted dismissal was part of a broader campaign by the president to bend the central bank to his will in hopes of forcing lower interest rates. While the decision was made on narrow procedural grounds, Chief Justice Roberts wrote the Fed was deliberately designed to be insulated from political pressure to help prevent the kind of economic panics that were common before the central bank was established. That carve-out for the Fed is in contrast to the Supreme Court's general direction of giving the White House greater control over agencies that were once considered independent. The High Court ruled 6-3 today the president can fire a member of the Federal Trade Commission, reversing a precedent that had stood for nearly a century. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
In a GOP setback, the High Court upheld a Mississippi law allowing election officials to count mail-in ballots postmarked by Election Day but received up to 5 days later. And in a case over geofencing, the court is restricting use of the new law enforcement technique that allows police to tap into giant tech firm databases to see who is near the scene of a crime. An administration program to build new kinds of nuclear power is reaching a critical deadline. Here's NPR's Jeff Brumfield.
Last year, President Trump announced he wanted 3 new experimental nuclear reactors up and running by this July 4th, reactors that use a different kind of fuel.
Do you remember gobstoppers? Are you familiar with what that looks like?
Rita Barenwal is chief nuclear officer at a company called Radiant. The new spherical fuel looks like a nuclear gobstopper. It can resist meltdowns. But to get the reactors running, as NPR has reported, Energy Department officials slashed hundreds of pages of safety and environmental requirements. Despite those cuts, Barenwal says the new reactors are safe.
I feel that everyone is operating with safety first and foremost on their minds.
So far, 2 companies have already turned on their reactors. She says she hopes to have Radiance powered up by the end of the summer. Jeff Brumfield, NPR News.
Well, as the country celebrates its 250th birthday, a heat wave is expected through the holiday weekend. NPR's Shondalise Duster says millions of people will be affected.
High temperatures in the 90s to low 100s combined with humidity could make temperatures feel like 115 degrees. National Weather Service forecaster Brian Putnam says those gathering outdoors should remain cautious at night because there may be little relief from the heat.
We're particularly concerned just with the higher amount of outdoor activity. People just want to get out and celebrate, and it's going to be potentially dangerous.
Officials are warning people to stay hydrated and remain in air-conditioned areas. Shondalise Duster, NPR News.
This is NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Matt Harab. Flags have been lowered to half-staff in Montgomery County after a sheriff's deputy was killed while directing traffic. Deputy Erica Serrato was outside her vehicle on I-45 near Lake Woodlands Drive early yesterday morning when she was hit by a commercial utility vehicle. Montgomery County Sheriff Wesley Doolittle calls the loss devastating.
It's a tragedy. We live in a safe community. We appreciate law enforcement. And it's very, very hard for us to see this happen, to see a life taken so early. Someone that's been committed to public service since he was 18 years old.
Another deputy was hit by debris from the crash. An investigation is underway into potential charges for the driver. Another FIFA World Cup match begins in an hour. Japan will take on Brazil from Houston Stadium. Now, the FIFA Fan Fest in East Downtown has drawn over 160,000 visitors so far as fans from around the world watch their favorite teams compete on a global stage. Our Kyle McClanagan reports local local restaurants near the Fan Fest have seen an uptick in business due to the large crowds.
In the months leading up to the World Cup, the Houston Host Committee created a program called Football Fiesta to help promote local businesses in East Downtown. Javi Ferreira is the general manager of J Bar M Barbecue, located a few blocks away from the Fan Fest. He says turnout has improved compared to the first few days of the tournament, which began on June 11th.
Like the first couple of days, it was not the most busiest that we expected. We actually were a little nervous, but then they started pushing more ads and everything out there on Instagram. So we've noticed that the FanFest host committee was helping us out a little bit and all the other businesses.
Ferreira says the biggest turnout so far has been when Mexico plays and when the Netherlands team was in town earlier this month. I'm Kyle McClinigan, News 88.7.
In baseball, the Astros beat the Detroit Tigers yesterday 7-5 after a 4-run 10th inning. Houston took 3 out of 4 games in the series, and they're currently just 1 game back of first place in the division. After struggling to start the season, they'll take on the Minnesota Twins tonight. I'm Matt Harrop, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. Fisher is committed to helping clients stay on track to reach their financial goals and enjoy a comfortable retirement. FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
From Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston.
Hello, Ernie Manous with you, starting off the week. Last week seemed like a very long week. This one I think is going to feel like a very short week. I think it's going to hit us really fast. Sitting in with me in the guest host chair, Raheel Ramzanali. I'll try it again. Ramzanali.
Yeah, that's close.
Do it for me.
Raheel Ramzanali.
Ramzanali. We've said it different ways. You've been on the show as a guest before, and I want to make sure we get it right.
I appreciate that.
But Raheel is with us for the day. Raheel, fill people in on what you do and why you have earned this seat next to me today.
Yeah, I was just walking along the campus here, and you were like, hey, why don't you just come in with me? And
That's
I said,
exactly
absolutely. That's how it worked out.
No,
I'm a longtime media professional here in the city of Houston. I think some of the listeners might recognize my work from the CityCast Houston podcast, where I've had so many reporters on from Houston Public Media. And then I've done sports radio. I currently do play-by-play for the UFC on the weekends on their digital side. Mm-hmm. I'm sure we're going to talk about the White House event at some point.
Did they do something there?
Yeah, that little thing that just messed up the entire White House. But yeah, that's me. And I live out in Fort Bend County, out in Richmond. I have 2 kids, an 11-year-old and a 3-year-old. And that's me in a nutshell.
Really quickly, just talking about that event over at the White House. Do you know, is the arena still there, or did they take it down yet?
So they are in the process of taking it down, but I think it's going to stay up for the Great American Fair that is going on right now as a visual, so people want to go take pictures. I know, it's so wild. It makes no sense to me. They did it. I wish they'd have just done it in a stadium. I don't know, like the whole appeal of it for me, I was like, okay, cool, it's the White House. I'm fortunate. I've been to the White House and I've taken the tour. I've gone to the Eisenhower building. My cousin used to work in the Biden administration.
Oh, cool.
So I had the privilege of going there and seeing it, right? So maybe I'm spoiled that, like, okay, I've already seen it, and I don't think we need to put MMA fights on the lawn there.
I have not. Yeah. I've been to the White House when I was a little tyke, so I don't remember much of it at all. But what bothers me about the whole thing was the images of the I guess the wrestlers, of the athletes wandering the halls of the White House in their little trunks and all done. And I was like, that didn't feel right.
It didn't feel right, but honestly, if you ever go on that tour now, there are people wearing shorts and T-shirts, and they're still walking the same hallways. Like, I wasn't with it either. Like, why are we having athletes walking down these important hallways, right? Mm-hmm. But then when you go on these tours, you're like, oh, okay, everyone is just dressed down. You're supposed to dress up. It's the White House, right? I went on 2 tours. One was like the behind the scenes. My cousin took me, and that one I dressed up. The general public tour, I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt because it was in August. It was hot. And I'm like, there's really no like decorum and respect anyways amongst people who are walking around.
Do you remember when we were kids, when we would go to church, we had to dress when we rode on airplanes, we had to get dressed up in our little outfits to go on an airplane. Now you can basically wear your pajamas. And I'm all for living life casual. I'll give you that. But it's just kind of odd. One other question about the White House, and we'll move on because my recollection is so bad of it. It's much smaller than you think, isn't it?
The White House is a little bit smaller, but the property is so vast.
Yes,
I thought
the park it sits on.
The park, it's so big. The actual White House, it looks small in comparison to other, let's say, castles when you go to European countries, right? Like that's what I want to compare it to.
Right.
When you go to Buckingham Palace, you're like, wow, this is huge. So it's small to that, but then when you actually start walking the grounds and there's this room and that ballroom and this and that, it's pretty big inside.
Oh.
So yeah, it's like a Houston home. It's charming in that
it
looks small, but we make the most of the space.
Not my Houston home, that's for sure. Anyway, speaking about politics and what's going on in the world around us, the Supreme Court has been rather active this morning. Tomorrow's going to be their final day, I understand, of giving decisions. And so tomorrow we'll do a much deeper dive in what's coming out. But the big decisions already were mail-in voting. That was a big one. They were talking about whether or not you can receive ballots after Election Day. And the Supreme Court has come down on saying, yes, you can, following one particular law which allowed 5 days. Now, that doesn't mean, from reading of their decision, is not saying as long as it's postmarked by Election Day, it can be 2 weeks out of it. So far, they're saying within 5 days, you can still count those ballots.
Okay.
So it's a big win against the Trump administration, which wanted to say if they're not in on Election Day, they don't count. It is a big win for mail-in voters, for military folks who do it. Tomorrow on the show, we'll take a much deeper dive. Judge Gilmore, who was with us on Friday, I believe it was Friday, she'll be back with us to really dig into this because there's also questions about expanded presidential powers, that the president can fire employees if their unit, it seems, falls under the executive branch, but the Federal Trade Commission, which sits outside the executive branch, he doesn't quite have that same freedom. And also the court said that they're not going to listen to the E. Jean Carroll settlement challenge, and so Trump still is on the hook for $5 million to pay her. At least that's how I'm reading. We'll do a lot more on that tomorrow. So tune in tomorrow during the show. Judge Gilmore will be here and take us through because we expect birthright citizenship. The decision on that will come out in the morning tomorrow.
And that one's going to impact so many people here in the city of Houston, the most diverse city. I know personally it's going to impact a lot of my friends and family who have benefited from that.
Right.
So what is going to be the plan moving forward? A lot of people are curious. A lot of people are watching this one, and I think it's going to be one of the more impactful decisions if there is a decision tomorrow, but it looks like they will.
Reading the tea leaves, as they often say, it looks like it's going to come down in favor of supporting birthright citizenship, but you never know till they say. And they may define things slightly differently, too, in their decision. So Judge Gilmore will be here with us, Vanessa Gilmore. We love having her on the program. She'll help us make sense of all of that. Coming up on today's show, you may not have heard the World Cup's in town.
Yeah,
we've been really quiet about
that little tournament that's going on.
We've got a lot of coverage on World Cup today. We are going to go live to the stadium where things are going on for today's match coming up. We're going to be talking with a reporter who digs deep into all of the stories about World Cup. We're going to expand it a bit more and take a look at the science of soccer, what that means, what we can learn from what they call the most beautiful game. And then later on in the show, we're talking about student loans. That's something that's going to be of particular interest to you, Raheel, because you got two little tykes.
I do.
Even though you're not paying college tuition yet, it's coming.
It's coming. It's
looming.
I keep telling my 11-year-old, and I've told her since she was about 6, I said, hey, either you're going to get a scholarship through athletics or academics, or you're going to pay for your own college because mommy and daddy are not saving. Mommy and daddy at that point are going to be enjoying life. So the pressure is on.
Oh, you're going to be enjoying life.
And she hates that. She's like, really? You're not going to help me? I'm like, we'll help you out. Don't worry. My parents helped me out a little bit. we're going to help you out. But yeah, it is something that a lot of parents are watching.
Yeah. You always hear those stories about in some families, they're like, when you turn 18, you're on your own. It's all up to you. You leave at 18. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What? But
I'm like, absolutely. When you turn 18, you're still with me. You're my baby. You're still my baby.
They'll always be your babies.
Always be my baby. Yeah.
Also, there's a new exhibit over at the MFAH, the Museum of Fine Arts Houston. We'll be taking a look at that too. All of that coming up on today's show. We've got a very busy show for you. But as always, we like to start with the headlines of the day. But before we get to that though, I always forget to do this, so I want to do it right now. We put up questions on our chat over in our YouTube channel, and we ask our regular listeners, who we call our HewTubers, who are over there in the chat, to answer a question. Do you want to state the question? It's up on YouTube if you can see it. Can you see it there?
I see it. So my big question, and I come from a sports radio background, so we always have to have these big questions. But this is one that I truly am curious about how you feel about it, how the listeners on the YouTube, my British computer, right? Shout out to him. I always hear his name. So here's the big question. If the U.S. men's national team pulls off the big miracle here and the upset and wins the World Cup on home soil, will it be the biggest sports story in the history of the United States?
I'll give you my opinion once the votes are in. But if you'd like to vote on that question, it's over on YouTube. Just look for Hello Houston. When you do, you'll find it in the chat, and let us know what you think. Folks are starting to vote away on it, and we'll find out what they think. Ooh. Okay, I started to pitch this. Let's get into it now. Let's read the headlines. Take me in, Raheel.
Yeah, in my neck of the woods, in Fort Bend County, there are two Democratic commissioners, Grady Prestige and Dexter McCoy, along with Republican Daniel Wong, have signaled that there is going to be a legal battle to settle their dispute over Wong's appointment as interim county judge. Wong is the GOP nominee for county judge and will face Dexter McCoy, the Democratic nominee, in November's election. McCoy and Prestige walked out of Thursday's meeting after the 2-2 vote regarding Wong's status. McCoy and Prestige said that they plan to pursue legal action regarding Wong's status as county judge. And all of this started back in April because Galveston County District Court Judge Jeff Jones suspended the embattled KP George from his role as Fort Bend County's top elected official and appointed Wong as county judge on an interim basis. The decision by Jones, who is a Republican serving as a visiting judge in the case, was in response to a civil lawsuit filed by a county resident against George in 2025, accusing him of incompetence and of violating her First Amendment rights during a commissioner's court meeting. So what are your thoughts on this legal battle? Should Wong still preside over the court?
Give us a call. Text us, 713-440-8870. I'm going to start with you on this because this is your neck of the woods. Have you been following it?
I have.
And
closely.
Your thoughts?
I have two thoughts. One, I want to start with a general thought. It's frustrating that other Fort Bend County residents aren't paying close attention to this. It's happening, and I get it. It's commissioner's court. It's the county judge. It's not sexy to follow. I get all of that. But this is a serious topic, and it has serious consequences because from here on out, if Wong is going to be the interim county judge and the commissioner's court in conjunction with Wong, who is the fifth vote on the commissioner's court, if they pass new laws or if they pass new mandates, they pass financial decisions, all of this could come back to hurt Fort Bend County because there could be a lawsuit saying, well, he had no right in the first place to vote or to make these decisions. So this is going to create a lot of legal battles here in the upcoming future if it's not decided if he's the right person to be in there, because Texas law states that it should be the commissioner's court deciding that, not a visiting judge. And the reason he decided that was because of the case that I mentioned, but that case has now been resolved. So should Wong be removed? That's the whole battle right now.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting to me is the leg up that it gives a running candidate to step into a position so that then, in effect, they become a de facto incumbent in there. And that's bothersome to me on some level. I mean, all said and done, Wong might be the right person for the job right now, but it's not the visiting judge's point to decide that, I think. 713-440-8870. What do you think about that? Let us know. Give us a call or comment over in our YouTube chat group. We're interested in see what you think. From where you sit, how has, with all that's been going on in Fort Bend and the problems they've had with their past county judge, what's going on right now, how do you think it's functioning as a resident?
As a resident, Look, I haven't noticed any changes, right? Everything is smooth right now as a resident, and that's a good thing, right? Because things aren't changing too much, but also we won't know how changes will impact us for a while because of the lawsuits that could potentially come based on decisions that are made with interim county Judge Wong in the seat right now. So we won't feel him for a while, I don't think. But everything has been smooth since, all that stuff came down with KP George. So I guess that's a little silver lining here for Fort Bend County residents. But I think things will change.
I think a bigger part in this whole story is for people to remember and realize how important our county commissioners and our county judge position actually is, how much it impacts what happens in our daily lives. We often get a lot of attention. I fall into this trap all the time of the national scene and the craziness up there and how these things, but from day-to-day life, what brings which rules how you're able to do things and the services that are provided, are decided on the local level, and people have to remember to get out and vote for those particular offices.
Those are so important, right? When you think about the city budget here in Houston and some of the services that might change or you'll be charged for, that impacts you every single day, or projects that are decided upon. Like I was reading up on a street in Houston that just needs a lot of work, and they weren't included in a big proposal. So those are actual things that are impacting residents. And the frustrating part for people is that, hey, I'm voicing my opinion, I'm letting you know, and yet no change is being made, and then you just get dejected, right? You're just like, okay, what am I supposed to do now? I'm the little man now. So I see the frustration on both sides, but it is important to vote in these elections and know about who you're voting for.
Yes, yeah. When we also talk about that and you think, well, what does it matter? My voice doesn't matter. The problem is, and the benefit to it, is it's often very low turnout in those elections. Yeah. So your voice actually has even more power. Oftentimes, these elections are swayed by a couple hundred votes, if even less. And so it's really important you get out there and vote. If you have a stake in it, and you should, because it's your county, your city, your home, get out there and vote. And remember, check and make sure you're registered to vote. You can do that. I think at vote.com, I think is where you go.
Vote Texas, right? I think that, yeah.
There's a bunch of different places you can look. Google it. Find out how to make sure you're registered to vote, and then make sure you're registered to vote. Then you can play the game. Otherwise, you can't play the game if you can't get in it. So keep that in mind. And also, if you're in Fort Bend, we want to know, what do you think about what's going on there? Is it productive? In some ways, I would almost say it's a benefit to the county because it's bringing attention to the court, which maybe oftentimes people forget about. And so all of this turmoil, as negative it is, may bigger voter turnout, more attention to the details, more interest in who these candidates are.
Yeah, I hope so. So. But I will tell you right now, I'm part of a lot of Facebook groups, WhatsApp message groups. Okay, those are hot in the suburbs. That's how we all communicate. Nobody has posted about it. And nobody is talking about it. And that goes back to my frustration of, yes, this is important, but I think people just don't care, at least out in Fort Bend County, in my neighborhood, which has, and these groups have over 500 people, and no one's talking about it. And that's why it's important to talk about it here on Hello Houston. Spread those stories, share them on your socials so people know what's happening. Let them read up on it, and they can make their own decision if it's right or wrong.
Well, maybe this will help them.
Yeah.
So hopefully you'll share with us what you think, but more importantly, you'll make sure that you pay attention to the issues and problems and concerns in your own community and take action. It's easy enough to do. Just vote. Okay. We'll get off our soapbox right now.
Yeah.
And we'll get on with the rest
plenty
of
time to get back on it.
Yeah, we'll get back on it again. Don't you worry. Coming up on Hello Houston today, we're going to get a FIFA update from our own reporter, Michael Adkison. And then we're also going to hear from someone else who's reporting on it from Houston Stadium. All that's coming up next right here on Hello Houston.
Meet Tio Choco. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. This is his story. Visit ridemetro.org/Choco to find out where is Choco.
That you have free will and you can make decisions.
Who gets to choose a good death? That's next time on Freakonomics Radio.
You can hear it tonight at 10 o'clock. On the next Fresh Air, Chris Evert and Martina Navratilova. They were tennis champions, the two biggest stars of their generation. They were friends, they were rivals, and after retiring, they got cancer at the same time. Now they're the subject of a new Netflix documentary. Join us. You can listen to Fresh Air. Coming up tonight, it's on at 8 p.m.
Houston Matters highlights the people, places, issues, and ideas that define Greater Houston. And we do it live on the air weekday mornings at 9 on News 88.7. But we know you're not always available then to listen. So subscribe to our podcast wherever you get yours, or find each day's program to stream online at your leisure at houstonpublicmedia.org. And reach out with questions or comments anytime. Email us at talk@houstonmatters.org.
On the podcast After the Flood from the Texas Newsroom and PBS's Frontline, we meet people who survived last year's floods in the Hill Country and those who lost loved ones, and we try to answer the questions they still have. After the Flood, out now.
Houston Public Media is licensed to the University of Houston System, governed by the UH Board of Regents. Information about open meetings, dates, times, and locations is online at uhsystem.edu.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manous and guest host Raheel Ramzanali.
All right, the FIFA World Cup delivered another busy weekend with games in Houston and across the North American host cities, from knockout stage implications and surprise upsets to shifting group standings and standout performances. There's plenty to catch up on. So we are going to bring in our friend Michael Adkison, who has been covering the World Cup atmosphere on the ground in Houston. He's at Houston Stadium right now. We have a knockout game taking place in about 30 minutes when Japan takes on Brazil. What's up, Michael?
Hey, guys. I'm doing well. I'm here outside of NRG Stadium, which is, of course, being called Houston Stadium. I have to mention that. A lot of excitement here. These are two fan-favorite teams, and you know, there's a lot of Brazil fans who are here. There are a few Japan fans as well, but, you know, Brazil is notorious for having one of the most devoted fan bases in the world, and there's a lot of excitement on today's match, guys.
I have to say, you're probably either using really great earbuds or your phone is real specific, because I don't hear any of the excitement around you.
No, I'm a little bit of a ways away from everyone. You know, a lot of the folks I will also mention have already gotten into the stadium. I remember on the first match, a lot of people waited until the last minute to get there. No, today a lot of the fans got there a little bit earlier. I think they've gotten the memo on how to get there and how to get inside, and the biggest takeaway was get inside early.
And that's awesome, because they started this tour, they started like a march at 9 a.m., right, the Brazil fans, so they had plenty of time to march, get all the energy out, and hype each other up, and they made it into their seats on time. Something that Houston Texans fans can't do, by the way. That's like a big knock on Texans fans. We can never be in our seats. But it's good to see that they took care of that. And how was that march? Were you around for it?
I was. I did the whole march. I checked my Apple Watch just a few minutes ago. I've walked around the stadium a couple of times, just on the outside. I've walked 4 miles today, and I didn't exercise this morning. It's entirely just from covering this match. But no, I did that march with those Brazilian fans. A lot of excitement. They were really just hyped up to get to the stadium, watch this match. You know, this is for any, you know, non-soccer fans who are listening, where we are right now is the knockout round. So the group stage is what just completed over the weekend. That's essentially everyone going up against each other, and no one was being eliminated up to that point, but only certain groups advance from there. Now, officially, it is do or die. And so every team is going to have every match, I should say, is going to have a winner and a loser from here forward. Right now, Brazil is ranked, I believe, number 5 in the world. Japan's around number 17, something to that effect. But Japanese fans have been very ecstatic about their prospects this World Cup. So, you know, we'll see what happens here in a couple of hours, guys.
Well, first up, I just want to let you know I'm challenging you in steps. So far, I've done 648 steps today. Am I close to you?
648. Let me look at my Apple Watch real quick. I've got 7,711.
Wow.
I'm no mathematician, but I do think that is a little bit high.
I do think you're in the lead. When you talk about positions, too, I do want to know, where is the U.S. right now? How are we ranking?
Give me 2 seconds, and I'll just ramble because I was just looking it up on my phone. The U.S. is currently ranked number 15. That's actually a couple of slots higher than they started out from. The U.S. has been one of the surprise teams, I think. You know, obviously here in America, we love everything American. but we're not necessarily known worldwide for our performances. And I think the U.S. really has surprised people thus far in the tournament. Obviously, last week's match against Turkey did not exactly go the way the U.S. wanted, but they have really done a lot better than I think a lot of people expected.
If I'm watching this game today between Brazil and Japan, what should I be watching for? Or who, by the way?
Ooh, that's a good question. Right, I really think that what fans want to see is, at this stage in the tournament, like I mentioned, it's the knockout round. It's kind of do or die. And so we're not just going to settle on a tie. It's going to be how quickly can we score a goal? How quickly can we make an impact on this match to where we don't have to worry about a tie? We don't have to worry about going into overtime. Houston obviously is going to be regulated temperature-wise, but it's an exhausting match, it's an exhausting game. And so I think that it's really going to be about who makes the biggest impact with the time that they have. And again, as I mentioned, Brazil is faring pretty well right now, but so has Japan.
Yeah. Before we look too much forward, how was this weekend? A lot going on?
Not here in Houston. We on Friday, I will say, if you consider Friday night the weekend, we did have
I do.
Saudi Arabia match that happened Friday evening. That was the most recent match here in Houston. That one, obviously, a big surprise in the victory for, well, I should say the tie, but a victory for Cape Verde. They are advancing. This is the first time that nation has ever advanced in the World Cup, and they've really shocked everyone by their performance. They took on Spain. I don't have their stats right in front of me. I think they have not won a match thus far in the tournament, but they have tied every game, and that's enough to move them forward, considering they tied against Spain, which is one of the biggest countries in the world. And so I know one of our HPM colleagues was there. Someone on our executive team went to the match, and he watched as Cape Verde got to celebrate that moment, and just everyone ran to each other and cheered. It's a really beautiful moment. If you go on our Instagram page, Houston Public Media on Instagram, you can see that moment as they all sort of embrace as they realize they're moving forward in the tournament.
And let me add some more context to just how unbelievable it is that Cape Verde is now going to be facing Argentina, which is the defending champs in the World Cup. So before the World Cup started, Ernie, they were looking for players by messaging players on LinkedIn. True story. And their goalie is like the sweetheart of the World Cup. He just goes by one name because that's how soccer players do it. Vozina. This man has built up a following on Instagram now, and he has played some of the best defensive goalie keeping right now in the World Cup. It's awesome.
We've mentioned this before on the show, but just to remind folks who don't follow it as closely, these are not established teams that have played seasons together. They are basically, would you call it a pickup team?
It's a national team, so it's everyone comes together just for the World Cup, and you could be playing maybe in the Premier League, you could be playing in La Liga, wherever it may be. You could be playing in the MLS, but they all come together throughout the year, and they'll have camps and games and all that, and then they go to the World Cup, so you're not spending a lot of time together.
Yeah. So, Michael, what are you going to do today?
All right, well, I'm going to be watching this match that's going to be happening here at noon. Not from inside the tournament. I will be watching elsewhere, or inside the stadium, I should say. But I will be watching this match. The other match that I'm going to keep my eyes on for all the Houstonians paying attention is tonight's match between the Netherlands and the Morocco. It's not here in Houston, but the victor of that match is going to play here in Houston on Saturday. We know they're also going to go up against Canada, which made its first World Cup victory in the knockout rounds yesterday against South Africa. So Canada's going to be here this Saturday, July 3rd, for Houston's final match. And then whoever wins tonight's match between the Netherlands and Morocco will also be here. So that's what I'm going to be watching. That's tonight, I believe, at 8 p.m.
Michael, thank you very much. Michael Adkison is covering the World Cup for Houston Public Media, and somehow or other has done the magic of making me care about soccer. And he's done a great job. Thank you, Michael.
Thank y'all.
Chef Rob writes in our YouTube group, Cape Verde is a sweetheart story.
They really are. You always want that one underdog story, and so people can rally around them, and they really have captured everyone's hearts. I love to see it, and this week also, the men's national team, the U.S. men's national team, will be taking on Bosnia-Herzegovina. So that matchup is coming July 1st. And to talk more about that match and some other storylines taking place in the World Cup is longtime Houston sports reporter. He is the current editor at Our Esquina, Jose de Jesus Ortiz, a friend of mine. What's up? How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys? I hope you guys can hear me. It is loud up here at Houston Stadium.
Jose, you are
Can you
actually in the stadium, right?
Yes.
So where are you in the stadium? What can you see from where you're at?
I'm in the press box, so I can see they're putting the lineups together. They just showed Casemiro, who's leading, with he's number 8. They're just showing the lineups right now.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, Jose, I want to ask you this big question that I asked to start the show. And you've been covering sports for as long as I can remember, and you're fantastic at it. So help me understand this, okay? If the U.S. men's national team pulls off the huge upset, because they're not favored to win the World Cup, if they win the World Cup on home soil, would it be the biggest sports story in the history of the United States?
Oh, my gosh. Yes, just because of what it stands for. I had to move. There's a guy doing an interview right behind me. Absolutely. This is the greatest tournament in the world. Nobody's expecting the U.S. to win it. But yeah, I can't imagine a greater sports story.
I want to remind everyone, too, if you have an opinion on that very question, there's a poll right now going on in our YouTube group where you can chime in if you agree with Raheel or not. Give a vote right now. We're watching the votes as they come in. I guess I'm curious about the excitement of the fans in the stadium. And do you get a sense that these are mostly visitors, or have Houstonians just jumped on this World Cup bandwagon? Are they in the stadium today also just going crazy?
It's a little bit of both. I was today. I took the metro in from Rice University, and I was literally rubbing elbows with a guy from Honduras in an Honduras jersey. There was a few Mexican fans. There was one with the stereotypical big, hilarious sombrero Mexican fan. Absolutely, this is a Houston moment. This is a Texas moment. I've been following the World Cup, and I went to watch Argentina last week in Dallas, and Buc-ee's was full of people in Argentina jerseys and Mexico jerseys. Walking in today, just a ton of Mexico jerseys. This stadium right now, it is all gold right now. It's all Brazilian gold with a sprinkling of Mexico green and a small percentage, maybe 10% of the fans. I'm looking right now. I see an Argentine flag. I see a Brazilian flag, a lot of Japanese flags.
Yeah, I was going to ask about Japanese representation. Is there much there? I mean, they got to be feeling a little sad if all they see are Brazilian fans.
I think they're used to it. This is similar to this is like the World Baseball Classic in reverse. But this, to me, I anticipate, and I've watched every major soccer match at Houston Stadium since the first one, Mexico-U.S. in 2003, if I wasn't traveling with the Astros when I was at the Houston Chronicle. And I do believe that this could be the greatest match ever in the soccer match in the history of Houston sports.
Wow.
Just because Brazil is the giant, 5-time champion. Japan is an upstart. This is a horrible matchup for Japan and Brazil because you don't want to face such a big-time team, a good team. Any result will not surprise me. Japan is very good. Brazil is, as I tweeted today, they play the soccer that God meant to be played when he invented this sport.
Well, let me ask this, though. When we go back to the Brazilian representation and the fan base and all of that, from a player point of view, does that, you think, build energy within the Japanese team to work harder, to really bring it more, or does it defeat in some way so Brazil feels the power behind them that helps their game? Could that influence how this turns out?
Soccer history would tell you that it influences.
Ah.
Mexico has done best in the World Cup when the World Cup is at home. Traditionally, you play best at home. And today in Houston, Texas, it might as well be Sao Paulo. This is Brazil right now.
I want to go there now.
I'm serious. Like, history will show you that the home team has the advantage. And you look around, like, there are placards with all these different, God Save the King, Casimiro. Like, Houston Stadium is unlike I've ever seen before. And, Raheel, we've been here. We've been here for Texas games. It does not compare. It just does not compare.
Oh, I bet.
And I've covered the Olympics. I've covered Super Bowls, World Series, baseball in Japan. This is different, bigger, better.
And that's exactly what I said earlier. I was like, we always give Houston Texans fans the excuse of, oh, well, they were tailgating. That's why they weren't in their seats when the game kicks off at noon. And everyone, Michael just told us, you told us, like, it is packed right now. People are in their seats. So let's stop making excuses for Texans fans. Get your butts in the seat on time. We're talking everything FIFA World Cup with Jose de Jesus Ortiz, editor at Our Esquina. If you would like to join the conversation, if you have a question for Jose, you can call or text at 713-440-8870. What were you saying, Jose?
I was going to say, my friend John Hernandez, who was on the board of the Harris County Sports and Convention Corp, he mentioned it at their meeting last week, how people at 9 a.m. were inside buying beer at every game. It is different. One point in defense of the Texans is that people are tailgating and saving their money during football season, so that might be the smart – FIFA is very smart. FIFA knows if you ban tailgating, they have to buy your expensive beer inside the stadium.
FIFA loves money. That's one thing we've learned. They love money. Hey, one more question on the soccer side before we let you go here. Let's talk about the men's national team one more time. They start their knockout stage against Bosnia-Herzegovina. Tell me about that matchup. How do we fare, and what's the outlook here for the men's national team?
I think the U.S. is very well positioned to continue and advance up, through the round of 16. Bosnia is a great team. I know I'm being cowardly here, but I can't pick a winner on that because they're closely matched. But I think the U.S. is in a group, in a bracket that they have a chance to do a good job. Canada has already advanced. They'll be here on July 4th. Mexico, out of the three hosts, Mexico has the worst matchup because they're going to play a very tough Ecuador. But the U.S. has you would say, a matchup that the U.S. is favored. Canada, if the Netherlands are here and you could get a ticket to that, the Netherlands are the Europeans who play soccer the way God invented.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you.
Meaning beautiful. I think France will win it all, but I think the Netherlands played that game they played here was the most beautiful soccer I've ever seen in Houston.
Let me ask you quickly, when we're talking about how well the U.S. has been doing so far, do you think it's a better gathering of players? Do you think it's the fact that it's on the North American continent in Central America? Do you think that's why we have more strength this year? What do you think is the special sauce that's making the U.S. do so well?
Pochettino is a great coach. He is a great coach. He has these guys believing in themselves, and this is the best collection of U.S. soccer players in history. Most of these guys play in Europe. I've always said, and Raheel, I don't know if you remember, when I got to Houston, I've always covered Major League Baseball. That's what I've done my whole career. But soccer is what I've done when I could get away and write about soccer. Mm-hmm. Soccer is my passion. Baseball is my love. And I tell you, I've said this since Klinsmann debuted. We are seeing what Klinsmann put into effect when he was the U.S. national team coach. Our young players, they go to play in Europe. They test themselves. Pulisic is probably going to go down as the best men's soccer player since Landon Donovan. But I've always said, if we could get these football athletes to play soccer, the U.S. could dominate because we're a bigger country. We have a bigger population. And now you have Antonio Freeman's son scoring in the World Cup. We have defensive backs playing soccer. We have wide receivers playing soccer. You put our athletes, we could compete with anybody in the world.
Yep.
We're just not going to play the tactical, beautiful Brazilian soccer, but we're going to,
we have the athletes now, and I think they will start doing that. Hey, Jose, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's a busy morning. Have fun at Houston Stadium watching Brazil take on Japan, and you can read more of Jose's work on ouresquina.com. Thanks, Jose.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right.
And I want to remind you all, too, if you want to vote in our poll question, do it right now over on our YouTube channel in our chat group. Is the U.S. men's national team, if they win FIFA World Cup, would it be the biggest sports story in U.S. history? We're curious what you think. Let us know. Okay, we're going to take a break. When we come back, the science of soccer. What can we learn from this beautiful game?
Meet Damola, songwriter, world-class violinist, and award-winning multi-genre artist. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. Visit ridemetro.org/Damola to learn more about his ride.
Midday. Japan sealed second place in the group, but now they face a far sterner test, the five-time world champions. The two teams have only met once before at the World Cup in 2006, but there is a cultural connection. Brazil is home for the largest Japanese population outside of Japan. The second match features Germany versus Paraguay in Boston. Germany had already locked up first place entering the final round of matches in group play. Paraguay finished 7th out of 8 third-place qualifiers. And to close out Monday night, Netherlands plays Morocco in Monterrey. The two countries' only World Cup match together was back in 1994, the last time the event was held in North America, when Netherlands coach Ronald Koeman was playing as team captain. Sunday, the knockout started with a tense battle between Canada and South Africa. LAFC's Stefan Eustáquio scored in stoppage time to lift Canada into the round of 16 and send South Africa home. Head coach Jesse Marsh called them Canadian heroes.
I wanted to be able to, voice to them like how important a moment this will prove to be.
Canada advances to play the winner of the Netherlands-Morocco match. I'm Jimmy Moss.
Support for soccer tournament coverage comes from Vamos Verde. You can listen to our special World Cup episodes throughout the tournament wherever you get podcasts.
Support for this soccer update comes from Karbach Brewing, makers of Hopadillo IPA, hosting summer soccer at Karbach, featuring live matches on a 14-foot LED screen along with internationally inspired food and drink offerings.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manous and guest host Raheel Ramzanali.
And there is no doubt that soccer mania has swept the city of Houston this summer. And while many local events are centered around the World Cup, what if I told you there's a soccer-themed event that takes a more educational approach to the sport? Don't let that word scare you off. The Science of Soccer is a month-long event at the Houston Museum of Natural Science, Sugar Land, that's dedicated to exploring the science, culture, and history behind the world's most popular sport. To tell us more about the event and the science behind soccer, we're joined by Kavita Self, who's Executive Director of HMNS at Sugar Land and the George Observatory. Kavita, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
We were just chatting right before the segment started, and I was saying how great it is that we go beyond just the surface of things, and that when we talk about soccer, we can all talk about the game we love, but there's so much more to learn from it. And you were saying that's the museum's whole purpose for being.
It is. We are leaders in science education, right? But we try to make it interactive. We make it fun, hands-on, and also show people science isn't just some abstract concept that you only learn about from a textbook or in a classroom. You find science in your kitchen, in your backyard, down the street, and on the playing field.
Okay, so parents who are at home with their children as we get into the summer and they're watching the World Cup, what can they be doing to point them toward making it more of an educational experience than just a passive watching experience?
So what we have done, we've taken this month, 6-week-long time period where every single day our Sci-Teens, which is our teen volunteer program, they're out there every single day throughout the museum with science-oriented demonstration tables. So, for example, we might be talking about the Archimedes screw, which came from the Netherlands, and it's used to pump water out of, low-lying areas. We might be talking about the buckyball, which is a soccer ball-shaped carbon-60 molecule, and we're tying chemistry, physics, material science together. But we don't forget to have fun while we're doing this as well. And so we have highlighted on the weekends leading up to this One Game, One World festival, which we're going to be doing on July 3rd, where we've highlighted the teams that have come to Houston to play. And we are talking about not only their contributions to science, but also their culture, their art, their music.
And I want to get into all of that, but what I'm curious about is when we're watching the game that we can point out, the trajectory of how a ball goes, the mathematics behind how you hit an orb to make it go a direction. It's not a straight line is a straight line. All of that. And parents can be proactive in those conversations.
Absolutely. We actually filmed a video with Clements High School in Fort Bend ISD.
Proud
with
Clements grad here.
All right. Shout out to Clements. And, their boys' soccer team was the #1 team last year, this past school year. And we talked with them and the coach exactly about that. What is the science? What are the calculations that you're making when you're on the field? What does bending a ball mean, right? And the trajectory, and you're calculating those geometrics. It looks so effortless when it's on the field, right? But these players are really so far ahead in thinking where that ball is going to go. We also have this demonstration of friction, where we have soccer cleats and a regular tennis shoe and 4 different surfaces. And we show you why friction is important, why the surface of the shoe and the surface that you're playing on makes a difference. And we explain to you the physics of it. So those are absolutely things that parents can explore with their kids, even if it's take a soccer cleat, take your pair of tennis shoes, go outside and try it yourself, right? Yeah. To see what happens.
You do it in the living room. I do it with my 3-year-old. And what we'll do is we'll literally kick the ball, and I'll tell her, you have to stop it before it reaches the couch or before it hits our dog, right? So, and you can do that with a 3-year-old, but with an 11-year-old, you can talk about bending the ball, right? And hey, what if you kick it at this angle? You see how the physics of this plays out. So it's a very hands-on deal, not only at home, but it looks like at the at HMNS in Sugar Land. So does that mean we have to show up in cleats, or when we come to check it out, like what's the dress code?
You can wear your regular shoes, Raheel.
Yeah, are we going to be playing or what? Because I want Ernie on my team, and I think we'll mop the floor with the kids.
We would definitely.
Well, with the kids.
With the kids.
If you bring
with the 3-year-olds.
With the 3-year-olds, we're in.
Wear your favorite jersey, though. You know, maybe not cleats inside the museum, but wear your favorite jersey. We'd love to see that.
That's very cool. So what have you learned during this exhibition? Like, what stood out to you?
I think exactly the principles of where you hit the ball and calculating the physics, that was really interesting to me. I have a daughter that plays volleyball, and so all of my sort of sports knowledge was based on that. But the principles were the same, you know, where you hit the ball, where you direct it, how much power goes behind it, what happens when you spin, all of those things. I have to confess that my favorite part of it actually, though, has been learning about the countries. You know, learning about each of the countries and what their contributions have been to art, culture, music. We've really enjoyed that.
Well, and that makes the World Cup becomes then a wonderful gateway drug into learning about all these countries. They're visiting us. We're more aware of who's out there when we watch. Not that people don't know these countries exist.
Right.
But when all of a sudden you're rooting for them or watching them, who are they? Where do they come from? What are they stand for? What have they contributed? Who are they? And we become much more of a global community this way.
Absolutely. And that's why we called it the One World, One Game Festival. So, you know, it's set up where you come in, in, you check in, and you actually get a passport. And then we've got all these different stations set up, throughout the museum where as you go and you have fun and you do something cool, but you're also learning about the country. And then you get a stamp, you complete your passport, you get a prize.
Yeah. I've mentioned this before, and it's one of my favorite pieces of artwork, and it's by Yoko Ono, and it's called Playing by Trust. And it's a chessboard where the entire board is white and all the pieces are white. And the idea behind it is once you start playing, you lose track of the separations that we put on things, and we realize we're all just one. And so this one world, one game concept plays into that same idea.
Absolutely. We're highlighting the commonality amongst all of us, right? And so, I'll give you an example. I found out that Germany is actually a leader in board game design. And I did not know that.
I did not know that either.
I did not know that when we highlighted Germany. And so our visitors got to create their own board games and then learn all about Germany and Albert Einstein and all the science behind it. But it was just such a great hook because who doesn't play board games, right? But not knowing that that's where it came from.
We're talking to Kavita Self. She's the executive director for HMNS at Sugar Land and the George Observatory. And one of the great things that y'all do is taking these moments and basically, I don't want to say tricking, but you're tricking students into liking science, right? Whether it be with the Artemis program, whether it be with soccer right now. How important is that to, quote unquote, trick them into it? Because it is fun when they see it and they're like, oh, that's science. Cool. That's physics. And now I am hooked for life.
I think it's so important because I always, and this is kind of a joke, but I always say that when I meet people and I tell them I work for HMNS, I work for the Science Museum, I get one of two reactions. One is, oh my gosh, that's really cool. Tell me all about it. And the other is, oh, great. And then they break eye contact and they don't want to talk about it anymore because they don't want to talk about science. And that tells me a lot about what their experience has been with science, right? And again, going back to what I said earlier, science is all around us. It is not something that can be separated from our daily lives. And so we absolutely focus on, yes, we will educate you and you will have fun while you're doing it.
The other thing when you talk about that, about science being all you have to do is look at the programming, both at the main campus and your campus, and all the different things that come into these museums, and you realize, that's science. That has a place in science too. Right. And it does, because that's how this whole world of ours functions, is through science and science principles and the physics and the chemistry and all that. That's how we exist.
One of the very popular exhibits in the museum in the Sugar Land location is we have the science of a cell phone. And what we have done actually is broken down all the elements, all the minerals that components of your cell phone are made of, and where it goes. Like this is goes into a chip, this goes into the glass or whatever it is. Right. And, phones are such a big part of our lives, especially young adults, teenagers. But when they come in, they learn to see their phone in a different way. So yeah, everything's a learning moment.
We had a comment come in over in our YouTube group. Pope John Paul II played soccer as well. Reading about World Cup, I learned that it has a Catholic history very beautiful in it.
Isn't that interesting? And those are the kinds of things we love, those, we call them aha moments, right? Yes. Where you find out and you're like, oh my gosh, that is so interesting. I want to find out more.
Quickly, before we run out of time, tell me what's happening at the end of the week as we wrap up this exhibit.
Okay, so come on out. This is included with your general admission ticket. One World, One Game Festival. We will have music, we will have culture, we will have art, highlighting all the countries that have played in Houston, and we hope to see you all there.
We hope everyone will go out there. Kavita, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Kavita Self is Executive Director of HMNS at Sugar Land and the George Observatory. The final celebration of Science of Soccer will take place Friday, July 3rd. For more information, visit sugarland.hmns.org. Coming up, more of today's top stories. Plus, we'll find out what's going on with student loans. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Your favorite PBS and Houston Public Media shows, live, on demand, and all in one place. Search HPM Plus on your smart and connected TVs.
HPM Plus.
For today, we'll have widespread haze, otherwise some sunshine, and we'll warm up to 94. Heat index as high as 106 today. Currently, it's 91. This is your NPR station, KUHF. Houston, News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, leaders at the Cynthia Woods Mitchell Pavilion rejected a township official's proposal to try to censor profane and sexually explicit performances on Thursday. We'll discuss this and more as we continue diving into the top headlines of the day. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm guest host Raheel Ramzanali. Beginning July 1st, federal student loan rules change in major ways. What do borrowers and families need to know before these changes affect their wallets? We'll have your answers.
Plus, what do old ships, crowns, flags, and everyday objects reveal about the lasting impact of empire and colonialism? We'll explore the powerful new exhibit that answers those questions at the Museum of Fine Arts Houston.
Also, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump is doubling down on his effort to overhaul elections. NPR's Franco Ordonez reports the latest push comes as the Supreme Court rules that mail-in ballots can be counted after Election Day.
President Trump has long sought to crack down on mail-in voting. He took to social media soon after the ruling, calling it a tremendous loss. And he argued that it was even more reason for members of Congress to pass his election legislation, which limits mail-in ballots and requires proof of citizenship for voting. He wrote, quote, "There is only one reason to oppose: cheating." The fight over the election legislation has deepened cracks between Trump and Republican leaders in the Senate, who've tried to explain to the president that they simply don't have the votes to pass the legislation, and that the fight is also hurting Republicans as they look to turn the focus to the economy ahead of the midterm elections. Franco Ordonez, NPR News, the White House.
It's been 5 days since two powerful earthquakes struck Venezuela. Reuters News Service recording a group of rescuers in hard hats and face masks periodically raising their arms, signaling for quiet as they apparently try to listen for voices of survivors who may still be trapped in the rubble. The official death toll is nearing 1,500. Thousands more people are still unaccounted for. NPR's Ada Peralta is in Caracas.
What I saw was just a couple of dozen family members climbing through the rubble, and they were just picking random places to dig. And then at times the smell of death would get stronger and they would dig faster. And I mean, look, there are helicopters in the air and there's backhoes, and the Venezuelan government has deployed the military and the police, and a bunch of foreign countries have sent rescue crews here, but there's just not enough of them.
NPR's Ada Peralta reporting. Nearly a year to the day since it opened, the Immigration Detention Center in the Florida Everglades is empty. From member station WUSF, here's Megan Bowman.
Center for Biological Diversity attorney Elise Bennett says her biggest concern is the detention center Florida officials nicknamed Alligator Alcatraz could reopen.
There's a lot of work that needs to be done, not just to undo the harm that's already been done at the site by this facility, but to figure out how to make sure nothing like this, no kind of development or intensification of the site can ever happen again.
Bennett says they want assurances the site is shutting down for good, a public evaluation of all the harm caused, and any damage is cleaned up and paid for. Governor Ron DeSantis says it was a good use of the state's resources. He's always maintained this was a temporary solution and says it will be taken down over the next 2 weeks. For NPR News, I'm Megan Bowman in Tampa.
It's NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Gail DeLauder. The first World Cup knockout round in Houston kicked off just moments ago, putting fan favorites Brazil and Japan against each other. Let's go live to News 88.7's Michael Adkison, who's been talking to fans outside NRG Stadium. And Michael, what have they made of this matchup?
Hey, Gail, good afternoon. There are lots of fans who are here from all across the world. Most of them, I will say, that I saw were Brazilian fans. Obviously, they're known for their very strong fan base all across the world, but there are quite a few Japanese fans who are here as well. Some of them have traveled as far as Brazil from Brazilian fans and Tokyo from the Japanese fans that I spoke with. This is a crucial match for both of them. It's the last time either of those teams are going to be here in Houston. They're going to go from here on. The victor is going to go to New York. But another crucial match is also happening this evening between the Netherlands and Morocco. That's not here in Houston, but the victor of that match will come to Houston for the city's final World Cup match, which is expected to happen this Saturday. As for this match right now, lots of fans excited to see everything. The one word I've heard everyone use to describe Houston, though, is hot. They say that this is one of the warmest places they've ever seen a soccer match for, but of course the stadium is going to be temperature controlled with the roof closed. That has kicked off just a few moments ago. That match is going to last for about a couple hours, and the winner again goes on to New York from here. Live from outside of NRG Stadium, Michael Adkison, News 88.7.
A thick plume of Saharan dust is expected to be in the region for all of today and parts of tomorrow. That's because of winds from Africa blowing the dust across the Atlantic into greater Houston. Melanie Geiger with the National Weather Service.
What you're going to see is hazy skies, maybe some reduced visibility. For people with sensitive health issues, it might be unhealthy for them outside, so our air quality will be going down. If you have allergies, that could affect your allergies, so stock up on the Claritin.
Geiger says for drivers, it looks like haze in the skies. Breezy this evening, widespread haze, overnight low near 78 degrees. I'm Gail DeLauder, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include DuckDuckGo, who believes AI should be useful, private, and optional. DuckDuckGo offers controls to turn AI on or off. Learn more at duckduckgo.com.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manous.
And not just Ernie Manous, Raheel Ramzanali is here with me, guest hosting today, because not only is he a wonderful on-air personality, he has a rich knowledge of sports, which is coming in very handy with the World Cup right here in town, and all we've been talking about World Cup today.
It's been so much fun, and the big question of the day.
Big question is?
If the U.S. men's national team ends up winning the World Cup, it would be a huge upset. Would it be the biggest story in the history of the United States when it comes to sports?
And we didn't just keep it between us. We put it out there in our YouTube chat group. Are you ready for the results?
Okay, here we go.
The answers could be yes, no, or Miracle on Ice is still bigger. I will start off with I was surprised only 5% thought Miracle on Ice is still bigger.
Oh, no. Even with all the movies, Disney getting behind it.
Even if it didn't win, I would have thought it would have gotten more than 5%.
I thought so, too.
So of the yes and the no's, my vote was for no.
Okay.
But there are bigger stories out there, and I think soccer has not taken over the U.S. attention. This has been a great step up in having the World Cup here and people's attention. But could it be the biggest story? I don't know. I don't know that there's enough people that engaged yet. But I was wrong. Only 42% said no. 53% fell with you, Raheel. said it was, yes, it would be the biggest sports story in U.S. history.
What comes to mind for you, big sports story?
I go to Miracle on Ice.
To me, that's
Always.
number one.
But then again, I was a kid that grew up during that thing, and it was on the Wheatie boxes, and it was. I don't even know if being on a Wheatie box matters anymore.
I don't even. Yeah, I don't think it does.
Are there still?
It's just like, can you trend on the Overtime app? All these different apps. Like, that's bigger now. But there was just geopolitical tensions. Obviously, there was more at stake. They were huge underdogs, that hockey team. They were all college players as well. They had actually played Russia in a warm-up game. They lost 9-1, I believe. Yeah. Right? So there was all of that. But even with that being said, this would be such a big upset. And this is the biggest sport in the world. This is soccer.
I think that's the part that we miss. And that's why someone like I would say no. Because we don't realize how huge, a lot of us don't, soccer, because we're very country-centric.
Yes.
What matters to the U.S. matters to the U.S., and then there's the rest of the world. And we forget how many other people are out there. It's not just us on this little rock floating through space. And that soccer, football, even we call it soccer. They call it football because we've got our own hold on that term. It's just amazing. And I think a lot of Americans are learning just how influential.
And we're getting a taste of it, right? You see all of the tourists that are coming into Houston and other host cities as well, and how much they're spending, how excited they are. They're taking a month off of work. And to be fair, in European countries, you get the summer off most of the time. So, they have that luxury, but just to see how passionate they are that they're spending all this money to get here just shows you how important it is.
I feel very silly right now because I've done what I always try not to do. I took for granted people know what we're talking about. And a couple of our YouTubers just wrote basically saying, well, one of them, I may not be old enough to remember what's Miracle on Ice. And then another person, a British computer guy, says, is Miracle on Ice a sport? Raheel, explain what we're talking about. We just jumped right into it like everyone knows.
The best way to put this, the Miracle on Ice, there's a movie made by Disney, so you can watch it, and it's a really well-done movie. There's tons of documentaries, but basically in the 1980s, in the 1980 Winter Olympics at Lake Placid, during all of the
U.S. territory.
It's on U.S. territory. So during all of the tension that was going on between the United States and the Soviet Union, hockey was at the center of it. And look, this men's hockey team was not good. They were college kids basically playing against grown professionals. And they came in as huge underdogs, and they pulled off the biggest upset in hockey history by beating the Russians in the semifinal game that ended up going on to win the gold medal in the Olympics as well. So it was one of the biggest upsets. It was a miracle on ice.
But the big point that you brought up a moment ago was the geopolitical tensions too, where it's such a tight spot that really that was like, we're not at war with Russia, but this was our war on ice and we beat them.
Yeah.
And so it carried something to it. Very funny. Chef Rob writes, where is it? I just lost it. It was right up there. The
comments are coming in that fast.
Here it is.
I love it.
The Olympics are bigger. The Final Four is bigger. College football is bigger. NFL is bigger. ... Here. Yeah, so I think that's what's being shifted, I think. I think there'll be a lot more attention on soccer moving forward after having this. And it's touching so many cities in our area.
It's so big. And one last question on this for you.
Okay.
The U.S. men's national soccer team plays on July 1st, their first knockout group game or knockout stage game. When will you start really locking in? Is it when they win this first playoff game? Is it now? Is it going into their second round matchup, third round matchup? When will you lock in?
I've been watching a lot more than I thought I would already. And I've been watching it very passively. It's kind of like when I watch the TV show Survivor. There's so many contestants. I'm like, I'm kind of just watching it over while I'm reading my phone, seeing what's happening. It's not till they get down to a final 8 or something that I really lock in. For me, it's once you start the knockout rounds. And the only reason I can say that is many years ago, I think it was 2004, I was in Greece when Greece made it into won in the knockout rounds and started moving forward in the World Cup. And so I was watching that because I had been to Greece. I was there when they got through, and I remember, and they had lost their game, but because of the structure, they moved forward.
They moved forward, yeah.
And I saw the people gather on the streets, and the whole of Athens just shut down as they marched with torches and big rallies, and it was crazy. And I was like, okay, I'm going to watch this. I'm at the same point now. Now, if U.S. continues on after this weekend coming up, I'm going to be like, okay, now I'm watching.
Okay,
I won't really know why I'm watching, but I'll watch for the excitement of watching.
That's what it's all about.
My British computer guy says I'm already locked in, but that's unfair because he's British, hence my British computer guy. So we expect him to be locked in.
Yeah, the English love it. And by the way, all the fans that have come over, one thing I've noticed, everyone's having a great time in the United States. Everyone's loving it. But fans from England are not. They're not giving glowing reviews of the United States. So, yeah,
but
the English are always a little snooty.
A lot of people are falling in love with the most important part of the U.S. culture, and that is ranch dressing. We've sent the important thing out. I think final word on that, and then we'll get to our headlines. We got a great story to lead that off with. It's that no matter how you feel about soccer or football, or how you feel about this whole thing happening, what it's doing is it's reminding us as a nation there are wonderful things about this country, as our divisions seem to always be tearing at us. When those outside come and see us, we're still a place people want to visit, want to see, want to explore, and they're still discovering new things about us. As simple as ranch dressing, but it says we still impact culture globally, and we are a great place to be. So don't ever forget that.
Yeah. Also, the ranch lobby is not doing a good job. If people overseas don't know what ranch is, what are you doing, ranch? Come on. Like, that's not some big revelation. Like, ranch, really? That was the big takeaway for people. But the ranch lobby needs to do a better
Buc-ee's,
job.
They're amazed by Buc-ee's.
Yeah. Buc-ee's, I understand.
And our Walmarts are so big. I'm like, what? Anyway, if you're just visiting and listening to us, what have you found amazing about this country? Call in. Text us, 713-440-8870. Okay. Coming up on the show, we're talking student loans in just a little bit. But before we get to that, we want to go into the news because there's a great local story that really curious your point of view on. So, Raheel, read it for us.
Yeah, this one comes out of the Woodlands. The Houston Chronicle reports that the leaders at the Cynthia Woods Mitchell Pavilion rejected a township official's proposal to try to censor profane and sexually explicit performances, citing free speech in a statement that was echoed by the township's attorney on Thursday. Township board member Shelly Sakula Gibbs suggested during Thursday's meeting that the board find a way to restrict speech during live concerts at the pavilion in the same way the FCC regulates TV and radio broadcasts. Sakula Gibbs also said the township should create an ad hoc committee to address the issue. She said that it is not going away after several residents told the board that they are concerned about the lyrics they hear in residential areas adjacent to the pavilion when shows are going on. Pavilion officials could not be reached for comment on Friday, but provided a statement to the board that was read out loud by the township president and CEO Monique Sharp during the meeting. Censoring artists at the pavilion is not possible, the statement said. The pavilion prides itself on presenting a diverse offering of musical genres, including orchestra, country, rock, hip-hop, heavy metal. While we understand not all artists appeal to everyone, we do not dictate artistic expression or censor freedom of speech on our stages, Sharp read from the statement. So what are your thoughts? Should the artists who perform at the Woodlands Pavilion be censored? Call or text at 713-440-8870.
All right.
That's a lot to digest.
Well, the problem is, going into this story, I knew exactly how I felt about it. And then listening to it again, actually, Sakula Gibbs makes an interesting point when she points to the fact that the FCC regulates what's on TV and radio broadcasts. And it makes me think. Originally, I was going to say sound ordinances, I understand. If something is too loud and it's distracting, it's cumbersome on your life, you live near the stage, the arena, the theater, that it can be problematic, and we have sound ordinances all over the place. But I was against the idea of censorship. If, in fact, families are hearing things that we have deemed offensive as a society, should there be some kind of limit because it is being put upon them without their desire or request to hear it? I am not in favor of censoring artists from expression and all of that. But if you object to it and it is heard in your community without any way for you to regulate it, there's something there now that I didn't think. I'm still, you can't limit free speech, but I think back to when I was a kid, horrible example, pornographic magazines would have a brown sheet of paper over the cover because anyone could walk into a store and see the magazine. So it's if you chose to see it, you could, but for those who didn't choose. So it's an interesting point.
Yeah.
I don't think you should censor the artists. I think what the answer should be is there sound barriers that can be put up? Is there things to insulate the sound so it doesn't go out into areas that don't want to hear it?
Okay. I'm torn on this, and that, yes, I understand everything you just said. But
which I didn't think I was going to say today. When this started, I was going a whole different way.
A lot of my understanding, a lot of the way I operate, I think we forget about personal responsibility as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you choose to live near the Woodlands Pavilion, there is an assumed responsibility that you're going to hear music, you're going to hear acts, because that is a big part of where you live. Like, that is one of the selling points. You're right next to the Woodlands Pavilion. That's awesome. And everything that it brings, right? So is there some personal responsibility that comes here? And I think there's a question of, are we forgetting about personal responsibility in general? That,
but
hey,
I think,
okay, are the kids out and they hear it? That sucks. I agree. I have kids, and I wouldn't want them to hear some of the lyrics as well. But also, is there some personal responsibility that, okay, if I know that Lil Jon is performing, that it was one of the examples that they used, do I know that, okay, maybe the kids shouldn't be out that day, or maybe they should just stay inside? And I don't think it's penetrating homes. I think it's when they're walking around,
I don't
right?
know, but for me, and I'm talking in the larger sense, not specifically Cynthia Woods Mitchell Pavilion, because they have been there for a long time. But I remember this issue coming up with White Oak Music Hall, and people lived in those neighborhoods, and then this happened, and this venue opened there. Well, they didn't buy their homes knowing that was there.
Yeah,
and then there
true.
was the sound ordinance. Now, if I remember correctly, theirs was just about the volume that was coming out of it.
I believe they end at 10, right?
Right. So then they put a cap on when it had to end and things like that. So this is slightly different. If you bought in knowing where you were buying and what was there, there is an onus on your responsibility for what you choose to do. But it does bring the bigger issue of what can we push out into communities, and should there be limits or not limits? And I think if you have the freedom, like for television, though, on the flip side, I am much more okay with more what we would just call objectionable material, because you can change the dial.
Yeah.
You can tune out of it. You don't have to stay listening. If it is being projected into your home and your area, you have no control over what you're being exposed to. So that's where I'm starting to waffle a little.
Yeah, and I think with the TV example, you always go in with programs with a certain rating, right? So if you go into the Super Bowl, you know it's going to be family friendly. And if something, depending on, then that was my example with Bad Bunny. There was a lot of complaints about Bad Bunny's performance because it was sexual in nature, or some people were offended by the lyrics. So that's where I don't agree with. I'm like, hey, it's Bad Bunny. I love him. I think he's one of my favorite artists. He's brilliant. But I also understand that, hey, if I signed up to watch this family-friendly program and then you put this on my table, I understand why you're frustrated. And as a parent, I get frustrated because when we watch certain programs and you go, okay, I'm signing up to watch a G-rated or PG, even though that's a movie rating. And then in the commercial break, all of a sudden, every single commercial break is something explicit. Where do we draw the line? So I understand the frustration, but I think for the Cynthia Woods Mitchell Pavilion story, that one, like when I walk around, I leave early from concerts, okay? I want to beat the traffic. I normally can't hear the words clear enough anyways. So maybe I need to go there and go where the residents are and dig into this
stuff better.
Because I'm like, I can't hear anything. So I don't know how they're hearing these words clear, because then you never have to buy a ticket.
713-440-8870. What do you think? Where do you fall on this? Alan from West Houston is on the line. Alan, what do you think?
Well, I think it's true that if you do decide to live near a pavilion and know that there is music that you will hear, that is something you need to take the responsibility on. I just had one thought about it all. You know, not everybody knows who Bad Bunny is, or believe it or not, or some of the other acts that might play there. So if there was a way that the pavilion could put out somehow to the residents, hey, there's this act, they do potentially have offensive language, we just want to make you aware of it. Perhaps that's one way to mitigate the fact. And then parents, again, could take the responsibility of ensuring, okay, look, there's going to be an act tonight. It's not going to sound really great to our kids. Perhaps this is a night we do something, maybe have an indoor movie night or something, or take the kids out for pizza. I don't know, whatever it is, but at least let the people know that, yes, there is an act that may have offensive language, and then it's up to the parents to take responsibility.
Yeah, Alan, good points there. 713-440-8870. Brain Arnold writes online, the pavilion has been there since 1990, 36 years later, and now people are complaining? Come on. Bijou wrote, I'm old enough to remember Ted Nugent being banned from the Woodlands for life until he campaigned on behalf of the Republican governor. My British computer guy says, what about car stereos blaring offensive rap lyrics? Where does censorship begin and stop?
It's a great point.
A lot of good points there.
Yeah, we knew this story was going to bring a lot of different points of view.
But I thought I knew exactly where I was going to stand on it until I started thinking about it. And I thought we should still be able not to censor people from expression, but you should be able to have the freedom to limit what you expose yourself to. And that's where it becomes a problem for me. Now, I don't know if that's really the draw or the direction that they wanted to go with this ordinance and what they're playing. But anyway, what do you think? We're still interested. Give us a call. Text us. Email us. The number 713-440-8870, or you can email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Something else on a lot of people's minds, that's paying for higher education. We're going to find out what's going on with student loans as Hello Houston continues.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
For professional degrees like law and medicine. There's also an overall lifetime cap of $257,000 in federal student loans, including what a student already borrowed as an undergraduate. In the future, students who have the financial capacity should plan ahead to finance their education. I'm Dean Leonard Baines.
From the University of Houston Law Center, this has been Briefcase. For more episodes, visit houstonpublicmedia.org/briefcase.
This is the first time a team participating at the World Cup has been in military conflict with a host nation, and it has split the Iranian community somewhat. But I've spoken to so many people who are trying to find ways to support the team, but also in a way protest.
I'm Natalie Kitroeff. That's Today on the Daily from the New York Times.
You can listen to The Daily tonight at 7.
I'm Scott Tong. Historian Douglas Brinkley helps us mark the nation's 250th. He says a key date is when Abraham Lincoln won the presidency.
Abraham Lincoln is the quintessential figure in American history, not Washington and Jefferson. It is Lincoln.
Next time, Here and Now.
Here and Now, coming up today at 1 o'clock.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Ernie Manous and guest host Raheel Ramzanali.
Starting July 1st, major changes are taking effect for federal student loan borrowers, affecting payment repayment plans, borrowing limits, and loan options for millions of Americans. With so many new rules and deadlines, it can be tough to know what applies to you. Joining us now to help break it all down is Betsy Mayotte, president of the Institute of Student Loan Advisors. Betsy, welcome to Hello Houston. And if you have a question for Betsy, you can call or text at 713-440-8870. Betsy, I'm a parent. I don't have a child going into college anytime soon, but I do want to know, what are the biggest changes right now? Because these new policies are undoing the Biden-era SAVE repayment plan. So what are they?
Oh boy, where do I start? So, excuse me, there's really two buckets of changes. There's the changes that affect loan limits for people in school now or are going to be entering college, and there's the bucket of changes for that affect repayment plans. Let's start there, because the number one question we're getting lately are from people that were on the Biden era SAVE plan that are now going to be kicked off that plan in the coming months, and they're going, "What do I do? What plans do I have available to me?" Those borrowers on or after July 1st are going to get a notice giving them 90 days to pick a new plan. And assuming they don't borrow or consolidate on or after July 1st, they're going to have a whole bunch of plans available: income-based repayment, pay-as-you-earn, the extended plan, and the new RAP plan that actually just sort of came online today.
Hold on one second, though. From somebody like me who's looking at this from the outside, all of these plans we're talking about is reimbursement payback plans. Is that what you're saying?
Those are, so federal student loan borrowers have plans that they can get on that are based on their income. And they also have plans that are sort of based on the term and the balance of the loan.
Okay, continue. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, no, great question. So now, if someone is going to borrow again on or after July 1st or consolidate after that date, all the plans I just mentioned go away. And the only plans they'll have available is this repayment assistance plan, which is based on income, and a tiered standard plan. So their term and their payment will be based on how much they owe.
Okay.
So, one other thing, though, that plays into this, we heard a lot earlier about the Trump accounts for newborns and children. Is that money, theoretically, as it matures up to 18, is that money that is for colleges, and does that affect these kind of plans, or doesn't that play into this at all?
Those don't play into repayment plans for student loan borrowers.
Okay,
gotcha. So, like, for example, there's a college graduate who is now 26 years old, and they still owe $50,000 on the Biden SAVE plan. By all accounts, reading up on this, it was much easier to make the payments, whether it be because the way it was tiered, the interest rates. Is it going to be more expensive now, or are the interest rates about the same? Could you break that down?
Yeah, so the interest rates haven't changed. Those are set by Congress. Now, I say that, but I'm going to put a little asterisk there, and I'll explain that asterisk in a second. The SAVE plan, the way they calculated your payment was much more generous than the calculation on the remaining plans and this new RAP. So, for example, under the SAVE plan, they took your adjusted gross income, and then they subtracted 225% of the poverty level based on your family size before they even started calculating your payment. So they were starting with a much lower amount of your income as sort of the base amount. The RAP plan, they look at your AGI and they multiply it by a percentage. So let's say your AGI was 60 grand a year. They would multiply that by 0.05%, divide by 12, and that would be your payment. So for almost everybody, the new RAP plan is going to be more expensive monthly than the SAVE plan would be. Now, to explain my asterisk about how interest rates don't change, the interest rates haven't changed. However, last week, the Department of Ed announced that anybody with loans dispersed on or after July 1st, 2012, that signs up for auto pay, they're going to get a 1% discount in their interest rate until 2028.
Gotcha. What is the interest rate right now?
Depends when you took your loan out.
Okay.
I have some people who have interest rates that are at 2.8%. I have other people that have interest rates that are at almost 9%.
Wow.
The rates are set by Congress, and the rate you get is fixed, and it depends what year you took your loan out.
Okay.
Are these only for new loans? Are you grandfathered in if you signed up to a certain program and that was agreed upon and you signed on to that? Do you continue in that, or is it wiped out and you start over?
Yes and no. So the SAVE plan is gone. The courts killed it, and Congress made sure it was dead. Um, and then there's some other plans called pay as you earn and income contingent repayment. Congress is sunsetting those in 2028. But the other plans, income-based repayment, the extended plan, you're grandfathered into those as long as you don't borrow again on or after July 1st.
Okay.
All right, so let's talk about the other portion of this. And as you mentioned, we just talked about the repayment. Let's talk about new loans. So what are the limits? I know it changes for undergrad versus graduate degrees and other programs as well. What is that?
Yeah, so we've got a couple different buckets here too. So for undergraduate students, the amount you can borrow for your own schooling in federal Stafford loans, not changing. If you're the parent of an undergraduate dependent student, you used to be able to borrow in the form of a Parent Plus loan up to the cost of attendance minus any other aid they receive. So the amount was really unlimited. Going forward, they will only be able to borrow $20,000 per undergraduate dependent student per year, maximum of $65,000 per undergraduate dependent student per year. Graduate students, the amount of Stafford loans that you can borrow hasn't changed. You can still borrow $20,500 per year. What has changed is you used to be able to borrow up to the cost of attendance in the form of a Graduate Plus loan. Those are going away. So the max you'll be able to borrow is the $20,500 per year, no more than $100,000 per your degree. The only exception there is if you're a quote unquote professional, you're in a professional degree program, they can borrow 50 grand a year, maximum of 200,000.
Let me take you back a step to the SAVE plan, just for clarification also. And my understanding is that those folks that are enrolled in the SAVE plan may have more time than originally expected to pay back because of ongoing litigation. Is there still litigation going on, or is it done now?
The original court case is done, but there has been one or two more recent suits filed. Mm-hmm. Listen, I'm not a lawyer, so take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt. I don't necessarily think they're going to go anywhere. Okay. So I would not count on a further extension if you're on the SAVE plan.
Okay, to shift to something that Raheel and I were talking about before this segment even began, all this talk about loans and the payment and all that seems to be missing the point of the continuing escalating cost of higher education. Is anything, your hands just went up if people were watching on YouTube, is anything being done legislatively from that point of view that may skirt all of these problems down the road?
I love that you said that, because while I was I've been working in the student loan industry since the earth cooled. And while I certainly was a fan of Biden's attempt at some broad loan forgiveness and that was targeted at the borrowers that struggle the most and all that, and the lower payment option, the fact of the matter is, until we solve the cost of higher ed, we're not going to solve the student loan problem. These are all like little Band-Aids. Now, in the last budget bill last summer, Congress did put a new provision in place that actually hasn't been talked about a lot, where it basically makes the program's eligibility for future student loans based on the ROI. So if someone who attended a certain program is not making more than someone who only has a high school diploma, and there's enough of those people in that situation, that program won't be able to get federal student aid in the future. So I think Congress thought that the loan limit changes would also help the cost of ed. I'm not so sure about that one. It remains to be seen if this new provision will make a difference. In my opinion, which you didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you anyway.
That's why you're here.
I think the biggest driver of the high cost of higher ed is when states reduced or eliminated the amount of money that they put into higher ed. So what ended up happening is our state schools, if you look at our state schools as so-called like anchor price schools, if your state school's 30 grand a year, you just sort of gave a market permission for your private nonprofit to be 70 or 80,000 a year. If states started contributing back to higher ed again, where state school was 10 grand a year, the private nonprofits being 70 grand doesn't really pass the consumer laugh test anymore.
That's such a great point. And if you have a question for Betsy, you can call us at 713-440-8870. You can also text us. And Chris from Cyprus is calling in. He has a question. What's up, Chris?
Hi, I was calling to find out if what's the information on loan forgiveness? Say you get a degree and you work with a nonprofit, or if you work with, a certain socioeconomic group, is there any loan forgiveness with some of the student loans?
Could you hear that,
Yes.
Betsy? Yes. Okay.
Yes. So that's a program called Public Service Loan Forgiveness. It's been around since '07. And the way it works is if you work for at least 120 months, which is 10 years, for either an eligible nonprofit or a government employer, and you're making payments based on your income, there's more to it than that. I'm trying to sort of do the 5,000-foot level. Any remaining balance on your loan would be forgiven. So it actually doesn't. One of the big myths of PSLF is it matters what you do for a living. Doesn't matter at all. What matters is who you work for. So again, it has to be an eligible nonprofit or a government employer in order to qualify for that.
And remember, as always, when we have experts on the show giving advice and opinions, remember to always check with your specific expert in this area, because they know the details of your situation specifically. And sometimes we have to talk a little generally so that everyone can glean something out of what we're chatting about. Just always have to throw that out there so people don't run to the bank and say, well, Betsy told me.
I love a good disclaimer.
Yes. Betsy, for people that are listening to this right now and they're just about to send their little ones off for higher education, what would be the first couple of points that they really need to take from this conversation to understand so they don't get lost in the myriad of paperwork and information coming at them?
Yeah, I think especially with the new loan limits, which is going to mean a lot of families might have to turn to private loans to finish paying for school. And private loans often have few, if any, lower payment options or the safety nets that federal loans have. So I strongly encourage families that budget for the whole degree and then figure out how much you're going to end up borrowing for that whole degree, and then take it a step further, figure out what the monthly payment's going to be. Are you going to be able to live with that for that amount of time? I see a lot of families going, listen, we're going to get through this year, figure out how to pay for this year. We'll worry about next year. Can't do that anymore. Especially with the changes they made to Parent Plus loans. You need to budget for the whole degree, and then you need to make sure that payment is going to be something that is edible, digestible.
Explain this for my ignorance here, though, but you can't predict the raising cost of tuition, or do you? When you get accepted, you're locked in at a particular fee, or no?
You're right. You can't, for the most part, you can't predict increases in tuition. So what I tell families of undergraduate students is figure out how much you're going to have to borrow year one and multiply that by 5. That does two things. It takes increases in costs into account, and also takes into account the fact that quite a few students end up taking 5 years to complete.
I always tell kids that I mentor in my neighborhood and community, first year, try to take your classes at a community college. Try to take it somewhere smaller.
Oh, I'm seeing
don't
she's
take
pointing at you.
Don't
She's giving you a
don't
yes.
take on those loans, even though you've been accepted to the University of Texas at Austin. That's great. Maybe that first year you could go somewhere else, because you really don't specialize and get into your degree until post-sophomore year, roughly. So I always recommend that as well, and that's my unofficial advice.
Virtual high five, man.
Boom, I got you.
I would take it a step further. I tell people 2 years.
Okay.
And because a lot of you're right. You might think you know what you want to do, but 70% of students change schools and or majors within that 4 years. So first 2 years, low cost school, and then transfer into the dream school.
Okay, back to these new programs and the new issues that are out there. Recommendations to get the best deal when you move into this new proposed plan. Is there anything that we should be doing at the start of it that makes it easier long-term on the family?
Educate yourself. become a student loan nerd, like I am. It doesn't make you really interesting at parties, but it really helps with your budget. Thankfully, we live in the internet age, and there's a lot of information online. So studentaid.gov should be bookmarked. That explains all the different repayment plans, and also has a calculator that'll tell you not only what your monthly payment will be, but, and I think this is the more important thing, how much each of those plans is going to cost you over the long term. Shameless plug, our website has the same type of information, which is freestudentloanadvice.org. So we have all the information about the different payment plans. We also have a calculator that will help you figure out how those plans fit into your budget and short and long-term student loan management goals.
Gosh, I'm getting scared. I have an 11-year-old, Betsy, but we were talking about this beforehand, just saving for college, and everything just changes so much. Are there any other changes that you're anticipating coming down the pike here?
Who knows? I mentioned before that I've been doing this since the Dead Sea was just a little bit sick. And I have researched higher ed policy back to the 60s. And I can say without being worried that I'm being overly dramatic, that the last 4 or 5 years in student loan policy has been chaos. Yeah. We all have whiplash. I don't think it's, usually when Congress makes a big change to higher ed, they're like, oh, we're over it. We're not touching it again for a while. I think they may have gone a little too far with a couple things, and they may end up wobbling depending on how future elections go. So I don't think it's impossible that things might change again. But the thing is, I don't know about you, my crystal ball is broken. The cat knocked it off the shelf. So you can only make decisions based on the information that you have in front of you, because none of us can predict the future.
Yeah. Well, I want to think that there's going to be a change in this policy as we go down the road, but you can't count on it. So you've got to predict you've got an 11-year-old, you're already got to be looking at this stuff. You can't wait till you're just about ready to go. You've got to be informed. And Betsy, thank you for all the information you've given us and the tips and the advice on how to be preparing for this. And as this continues to change and shift, I hope you'll come back and help us understand it again.
I would love to.
Thank you. Betsy is the president of the Institute of Student Loan Advisors, and she joins us regularly here when we've got some news and updates for you. Coming up, speaking about things that are new, there's a new exhibit at the Museum of Fine Arts. We're going to tell you all about it. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross-country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
Is waiting
on HPM Plus.
Infrastructure is expensive and opaque all at the same time.
There are lots of important things that go into building infrastructure that we can't measure in a standard way.
I'm Kai Rizdal, measuring the immeasurable as best we can. Next time on Marketplace.
You can listen to Marketplace coming up tonight at 6:30.
As the second president of the United States, John Adams was establishing precedent.
A lot of times, constitutional authority has a question mark after it until someone has actually tested it and confirmed.
How Adams solidified many of the functions of the chief executive we still know in the 21st century. That's next time on Think.
Listen to Think coming up tonight at 11 o'clock.
Is your old car just a background in the garage? Put it to work for Houston Public Media. We'll take your car, truck, and so much more in any condition. It's free for you, and you'll support the local journalism you rely on. Learn more at houstonpublicmedia.org/cars.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV8, tune in for Declarations, Black Americans in the Revolutionary War. Trace the heroic stories of the enslaved and freed Americans who fought to define democracy and their liberty. Tonight at 9 on TV8.
to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talkinghellohouston.org. And now, Ernie Manous and guest host Raheel Ramzanali.
Hew Locke is a Guyanese-British artist that's known for his multimedia explorations of empire, history, and collective memory, and now an exhibition featuring the most comprehensive survey of his work called Hew Locke Passages is on view at the Museum of Fine Arts, Houston, where it will be going on through September 13th, showcasing more than 3 decades of his sculptures, collages, and awesome. I can't say that word. I can say it for me, Ernie. That one, I stumbled on that one.
You're okay.
That's me. I'm going to keep going. And you can look at the history of colonialism across 5 continents through the lens of a present day realities. So to tell us more about the exhibition, we are joined by Brittany Webb, the curator of modern and contemporary art at the Museum of Fine Arts, Houston. Brittany, what's up? Welcome in. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm doing great. We were talking about Hew Locke, and I just want to, if you're not familiar with his work, and I said this to y'all in the break, the best way to describe Hew Locke is that he is your favorite artist's artist. And people find a lot of inspiration from Hew Locke.
Before we dig into what you folks have on display, we had talked about this a little earlier in the show, and I was referring to a piece of art by Yoko Ono, and I was talking about there is the object that you see there, but it's the idea behind it. What is it saying? What's more there that this art is simply expressing through a visual mean? And that's what I love about his work, is that you see these elaborate drapings on statues and things like that. It's really cool to look at. But what is he really saying about these things by highlighting them?
Yeah, I love that you offer that framing, because I think that one of the great things about Locke's work is that so much of what he's saying is in the work. Everything sort of feels like there are double or triple entendres. Yeah. So our exhibition opens with this incredible ship that viewers can see. It's suspended from the ceiling right at the start of the exhibition, and it gives people a hint into, why the exhibition is called Passages, how he might be thinking about travel and the history of ships, the history of maritime art, if you're interested in that. But even if you're not interested in it, this incredible massive ship and thinking about how people move throughout the world on the water is haunting the work. And it's an assemblage made of a number of materials that are really recognizable. If you look at them for a long time, you recognize the cotton that he's using, these photo transfers that are printed on fabric. And so you can see hints of photographs of faces or certificates in the sails of the ship. On board the ship, there are no figures. You realize you're looking at plastic toys and beads and sequins and things that you recognize. It's kind of nice.
But it's also interesting that you are showing this work at this point in our history, where a lot of us are talking about leadership and governance and how people are influenced, and I almost don't want to say the word, but controlled and guided, and how his artwork talks to the human experience in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the better things that some of my favorite artists do is just sort of turn on their heads the ideas behind, how we think we got the version of the world that we're in right now. And I think that that's something that his work...
Much better put than I asked the question. Thank you for that. But go on.
No, but I think that creative take on what kind of history are we thinking about, history with a capital H, history is like the narrative of everything that happened before we got here, versus what are these histories that go unexplored or that we don't talk about as much, but they have everything to do with the world that we live in right now. I think he's a Guyanese British artist, so he's thinking about the history of the United Kingdom, somebody who was born in Scotland, moved to Guyana, went to art school in London, has worked all around the world, has been influenced by everything in the collection of the British Museum and by his world travels. I think that his artwork offers us a way to think about not just the history of the world, but a way to reimagine the question, where is it that we think we are right now? Just basic geography. Where do you think you are right now?
I love that. If you have a question for Brittany, you can call or text at 713-440-8870. She is the curator at Museum of Fine Arts, Houston. And with an artist like Hew Locke, who is alive, by the way, because I think a lot of people forget, like, hey, just because you're inside a museum doesn't mean you're not live anymore. But does the work actually focus on things that are going on right now in present day in the world, or is it more of a snapshot like you just mentioned already?
I think some of the work reminds us that, you know, everything old is new again. Mm-hmm. If we think about something like the British monarchy, he's thinking about both the individuals who occupy, you know, the seat of monarchy, as it were. So there's this fantastic relief sculpture, an assemblage, a mixed media assemblage of Queen Elizabeth II that is in the shape of a silhouette taken from a portrait of her, a classic portrait of her by Dorothy Wilding in 1952 that was sent to embassies all over the world. And so this idea that Queen Elizabeth was a person, right? That, you know, a monarch who was a real woman in the world, but this picture of her is more of a symbol than a person. So I think this idea of making artwork that's based on a photograph of a human who was real, but also is a symbol of all of the elements of British colonialism that people don't even think about. The sculpture that's on view at the museum, you know, for example, it has all of these fake plants, these plastic toys, beads, sequins, but also plastic swords. So like the idea of a queen that's made out of knives. I think it's a great way to think about who is it that we imagine that Queen Elizabeth II was, not just in the United Kingdom, but in parts of the world that really generated wealth for the monarchy, like Guyana. So, I mean, I think that is an idea that's both old and new, that's thinking about, you know, what's the history that made the world that we live in now, and how are these very real people offering us a way to think about, well, who's in power and what are they doing, and how are we thinking about the person that's in power, and also the ways that the person's power ideas about that person in power can circulate in the world even when they're not physically moving.
There is a description of this exhibit that says it could be described as when beautiful art asks difficult questions. And the reason I like that is it reminds everyone, on top of all the things we're talking about, there is beauty on display here. The art itself is beautiful to look at. It's just so if you just want to come and be very surface and just see beautiful art, you're going to see that things that intrigue the eye. But then there's also lots of these questions being discussed in the pieces.
Yeah, I think that beauty is really important. I think the beauty of the sculptures and the drawings and the watercolors is really energizing, so that even if you don't read the labels, if you're not really necessarily interested in thinking about the history of colonialism in the world on a Saturday, you can still enjoy the exhibition. I think the work is sublime in a way that also gets me thinking about art history in a way that's really energizing. Like, what does it do when you have a contemporary artist who is world traveled and incredibly well trained, you know, somebody who comes out of the Royal College of Art in London is thinking about art history, European art history, Indian art history, Asian art history, the all of those ideas kind of mixing together and then playing with those ideas in fabric and textile and embroidery and sequins. What does that look like when somebody builds a sculpture of a lifted house and makes it pink and green and yellow? I mean, the color is so explosive that on its own is really compelling.
Well, that's what I love about it. It's anything but simple. And I think that's what's so great. I love my personal taste, always the layered, the intricacy of it and all of that. And when you look at his artwork, you see all of this richness coming together, and it tells a story in and of itself. And that's what's so beautiful.
Yeah, that's the best part. And that's available right here in Houston, everyone. So definitely check it out. Museum of Fine Arts Houston. When is it opening up and how long is it running?
So it just opened to the public Juneteenth weekend, and it's on view through September 13th. And Hew is going to come to the museum and be in conversation with us on September 2nd. So if you come to see the work and you love it, as so many of us do, you do have the opportunity to come back, talk to the artist, ask him questions about how the work is made, what kinds of, you know, answers aren't on the object labels, and also just what is he like?
Okay, that terribly ruins the next question I was going to ask, which seems so simple after what you just said. So I've got to ask this question instead. Have you had a chance to spend time with him, and what have you gleaned from him that we may miss looking at the artwork that you want to impart? And you've got 30 seconds to tell us that answer.
Ooh, I think That is such a rich question. So I've known about Locke's work for a long time, and I would say spending time with him, he is a wealth of information. When he says that if he weren't an artist, he would be a historian, you see that in the work, and you feel like he would be the best historian you ever encountered. But also, if you spend time looking at the work really, really closely, the longer you look at it, the better it gets.
Oh, perfect. Well, if you are, if not the best, one of the best curators we've ever had on. So thank you very much for coming in, Brittany. Brittany Webb is the curator of modern and contemporary art at the Museum of Fine Arts, Houston. Hew Locke Passages is on view at the Museum of Fine Arts, Houston, now through September 13th. To learn more, visit mfah.org. I said it slowly because I've said it wrong a bunch of times. I want to get the letters in the right order. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And that brings us to the end of the show. We want to thank you for watching and listening to Hello Houston. We'll be back tomorrow with more conversations. Raheel, thank you so much for sitting in with me today. And enjoy having you here. Come back. We're going to take a look at the decisions coming out of the Supreme Court tomorrow. We're also going to take a look at the state of housing in Harris County. That and more tomorrow on Hello Houston right here on News 88.7.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Mehivar, Jen Altai, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
On the podcast After the Flood from the Texas Newsroom and PBS's Frontline, we meet people who survived last year's floods in the Hill